Hello everyone, how are you? How are you this Sunday? I appreciate we're an hour earlier for the regulars, so I hope you managed to catch us, guys. How's it going? How's your weekend been? Don't forget to say hello in chat if it's your first time here. I can see some of you already doing that. Welcome in, Marina. Welcome in, Tanya. Welcome in, Sarah. So welcome to the Chronic Pain Club, guys. Every week we have different guests here on a Sunday night talking about lived experience. It's not limited to pain. It's basically about anyone with lived experience. Sometimes that's not limited to the person living with it. It could be the person supporting it. And we share their experiences. There's only so many times I can share my story. So what we do here is create a platform for other people to share theirs. And tonight's a really special one, guys, because it's the first time that we're joined by people who have gone on to make products and do things in the real world beyond us sort of sharing our stories to make a real difference to the lives of other people. You know, we have lots of people on here who talk about how they speak, or they might have their own podcast, or they might create content for people and for peer support communities such as ourselves. But it's the first time we're featuring people that are creating products and brands and things like that, and really excited to share that tonight, guys. So thank you for joining me. And wow, so many people in chat already. First of all, hello to everyone. Please do say hello if this is your first time. How the format of the show works is that first and foremost, we're a peer support community. We create peer support content, awareness content. We try to reduce the stigma, we try to educate, and ultimately we try to make those people living with these conditions feel supported and represented, and that they're not alone or failing, or all of those other horrible sort of negative connotations we tend to put on ourselves. So basically, the first thing we do is we check in with everyone. We get people to say hello. We build that community at the start and again at the end of the show. When we bring in our guests, we will take the chat off screen. Just out of courtesy of our guests, also to keep everyone safe, because I can't moderate when I'm interviewing. But we will feature the best comments. So please do, if you've got something to say about something that's been said in the interview, or if you've got a comment or a question, please put it in chat. We'll feature the best ones. We'll pop them up on screen. Some of them we'll come back to towards the end. Some of them actually influence my questioning as well. So please do. But the important thing to point out now is that you can see everything on screen from all of the platforms we're live streaming on at the minute, YouTube, Facebook, etc. But when we take chat off screen, you'll only be able to chat with the people that you're watching this with. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll only see the chat from YouTube. If you're watching this on Facebook, vice versa. So as you can see, most people have got a YouTube logo next to their name tonight. So if you want to carry on that conversation tonight whilst we're doing the interview, please head over to our YouTube channel and carry on the conversation there, because ultimately it's what we're here for. It's what we're here for, to support people, to raise awareness and share stories. As you can tell, I've got a bit of a croaky voice tonight, guys, as well. So apologies if I've got a lot of water breaks. Headphones are done. Sounds a bit tinny. Okay, is that more than one person? Let me fix that whilst we can. Just try refreshing your browser, guys, just in case you joined the live stream early, because sometimes that can lag a little bit behind. I don't think I've changed it. I don't think Dylan's been in here, my 4-year-old. Every now and then my 4-year-old will come in and touch stuff. I really hope he hasn't touched anything. I didn't get any reports of issues before we went live, guys, but I appreciate your feedback as ever, because we rely on you to tell us if there's an issue. So who have I missed? Leah, welcome in, Leah. I hope you're good. I'm just going back through chat, guys, so I can say hello to everyone. Amy, welcome in. I hope you're well. I missed you, Amy, recently. I hope things are going well. Have I caught up Snuffle? I don't think I actually said hello to Snuffle. Sorry, Snuffle, it's like everywhere. Moderates our Twitch channel, helps out on our Discord. So I get so used to seeing the same faces, I sometimes forget my manners. So welcome in, Snuffle. I hope you're well, mate. The tinniness, that isn't just the sound of my voice, is it, since I've got a cold at the minute? It might be me. It might be me and my voice. And maybe my mic is interpreting it differently tonight. But let me know if it's usable or not, guys. Right, let me have a look. I've just tweaked a couple of things. Let me know if it's any better or not. I'm everywhere. Right. What else? Anyone got anything to share, guys? Anyone got anything to share before we get into the interview?
Anyone got any sort of stuff going on with their sounds a bit different? Okay, that's worried me. No, 3 of you said that. Hang on, 2 seconds. I'm not going to change anything because I fear I'll make it worse. But I'm sorry if it sounds different, guys. It might be my oh, seems better. Amy's just keep me on my toes. Yeah, so I did just change one setting a couple of minutes ago. So if you're noticing it better now, then we'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. That's much better. Okay, cool. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. I have multiple mics, so I wonder if it was picking up from the wrong one. But I am croaky tonight, so it could just be me. But there we go. But you guys always know how to keep me on my toes. But we think on our feet on this show. A bit like living with our long-term health conditions. So has anyone got any check-ins to do, guys? Any peer support stuff before we move on to the interview? I don't want to keep our guests waiting too long, but as you know, we tried to create a bit of space at the start of the show. And at the end, guys, if this is your first time here, I will be here for as long as you need me after the show. So we'll let our guests go, and then we open the floor to chat and questions and everything else. And then, yeah, let us know if anyone has anything they want to share, and we'll pick that back up at the end. Right, before I bring my guests in, guys, I just want to do one final audio check. Is everything good? No tinniness. Has the tinniness gone? Can you hear my aircon in the background as well? Because I don't want to ruin the recording. But I tried turning it off, and I'm instantly melting, so I've had to put it back on. But I hope you're all well, guys. I hope you're all well. I'll give you a second to tell me if it's usable or not, and if not, we'll crack on. All sounds great. Awesome. I don't have to cook. That's good. Right, guys. So usual drill. The chat will come off screen shortly. Please carry on the conversation where you are watching. It helps massively with the algorithm, but it's also about our peer support community that we're building. We're here to support each other, and I will feature the best comments as we go. But for now, I will drop off chat. We will kill the music. Sorry, you got a whole load of my face going on there. You're going to have to just deal with that, embrace it. And basically, right. So thanks for joining us tonight, guys. Absolutely delighted tonight to be doing a slightly different Chronic Pain Club talk show, and at the slightly earlier time. So thank you for those of us that joined us a little bit earlier this evening. So eczema and psoriasis are common skin conditions that can cause significant disruption and discomfort to everyday life. They often carry stigmas that go far beyond the impact that it has on our skin alone. And we hope to highlight some of those issues tonight and provide some practical tips and advice on managing those conditions and living more comfortably from various lived experiences, perspectives on the show. So without further ado, we'll bring in our guests. And as if by magic, we should be joined by Joe Greenslade and Nadav Shraibom. Joe is the managing director of Eczema Clothing, a company that provides super soft and sustainable clothing and sound advice to people with itchy skin, and also a lady who has significant personal experience with eczema in her family. And Nadav is the scientific founder of Medovie, a skincare company that combines the wisdom of traditional Chinese medicine with the advanced scientific research to develop safe and natural skincare and dermatological products, and lives with a long-term health condition themselves as well. Both, thank you for tolerating that very long intro, and I hope you're well.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Joel.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for joining us and giving up your Sunday evening. I really do appreciate it. If you want to maybe just introduce yourselves a little bit and maybe anything I haven't covered there already. Nadav, do you want to start?
Sure. So my name is Nadav Shraibom. I'm a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner. I do it for about 30 years. I'm the father of my 3 kids. And I am personally a psoriasis sufferer. I think that maybe the interesting thing to start with is describe the first flare-up that I had about 30 years ago, when I moved from Israel to California, to San Francisco, to the American College of Traditional Chinese Medicine, where I got my professional education. And on the flight from Tel Aviv to San Francisco, which is a long flight, about 17 hours plus the jet lag, etc. And when I arrived to San Francisco, I was covered head to toe by my first flare-up of psoriasis. And that was my first time knowing about this issue, learning about this issue. And I had two choices at that point. The first one was to go and see a local dermatologist in San Francisco that would have probably given me steroid creams, etc. Probably the same steroid creams, the same products that are being used today in the modern medicine. And the other option was to go to the clinic of the college where I studied. And I went there. I met Dr. Fu, an amazing Chinese practitioner. I started drinking Chinese herb that he prescribed me, and slowly and surely, with patience and persistence, the flare-up disappeared. I think that was probably the seed of Medovie that was funded by me probably maybe 15 or 20 years later. But that was the seed of everything.
Brilliant. And I've got so many questions, but I'm going to hold off just so I can bring Joe in. And Joe, do you want to do something similar and sort of tell us a little bit about yourself and your role?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Joe Greenslade. I run an online retail company called Eczema Clothing. You might have seen reference to Cotton Comfort in the title of the show as well. That's actually our in-house clothing brand. So we make our own clothes out of organic cotton, but we also sell a sort of curated set of brands that we think are really appropriate, or set of clothes appropriate for people with eczema and other itchy skin conditions. But the reason I got into it, and the whole reason I'm here, is that my younger daughter, who's now 18, had really severe eczema as a baby and a small child. And I just had no idea before then what that really meant and what impact that had on people's lives. Alongside the sort of physical distress, obviously, it caused her, the sleep deprivation, the financial toll, the sort of isolation that condition brings was something I just hadn't even, considered before. And at times, I'm sure everyone around you listening to this will appreciate, it feels totally sort of overwhelming and quite unbearable. So it started a journey, I suppose, for us to try and find solutions to managing it. And I was lucky that a friend of my sister's recommended these organic cotton sleep suits, which had like integral mittens and integral feet. And alongside a whole routine, which I won't go into now, of baths and creams and thinking about what she was wearing, sort of what environment she was in, and medication. And I did go down the more modern medicine route because that was sort of, I didn't know any better. But the sleep suits made such a big difference to her sleep and let her skin heal. So it helped us sleep because she slept. So it had such a big impact that 17 years later, she's now 18. I looked up the little company that I'd bought the stuff from to see if, having had a career in business myself, to see if I could help them reach more people, I suppose, and help more people like me, and a family like we were when Bonnie's eczema was so bad. Only to find that actually the woman who's running it really needed someone to take it over. So I very rashly, in some respects, jumped in and took it over a couple of years ago. And that's what I do now is I gave up my other job. And that's really what I do is to try and create garments that help people with itchy skin conditions, both and a lot more adults than I appreciated, because my focus initially was kids, but actually we sell more to adults than we do to kids.
And amazing work you do too. Thank you for sharing that. And like I say, we'll do a bit of a deep dive into the personal experiences. So Nadav, back to you. We get a lot of people on this show share very long onset sort of experiences and things like that. Yours was quite sudden. What sort of impact did that have on you to sort of just suddenly have this flare up for the first time? And I suppose beyond just the skin, did that have an effect sort of mentally as well?
I think that we can go strictly and directly to the point of stress. Any person on that conversation, on this discussion here, we all are aware of the stress and its effect on skin problems, on health in general, but on skin problems for sure. And I think that what we should understand about stress is that it's a cause and effect, and it's a vicious circle in a way, because it causes psoriasis, and psoriasis causes stress. And then it's in a way, you get into this vicious circle. It's very hard to get rid of it, to get out of it. You have to develop some awareness to the situation. You have to use all the methods in the world to try and deal with the stress. But definitely, when I stress of moving from one country to another, the stress of moving to the college and starting my own educational program, and everything that was part of this move, it was a very stressful period of time. Obviously, I had my my genes or my everything that the psoriasis was probably in there somewhere, but it was the first time that it flared. Definitely the most severe flare that I had. And I think that we always have to start and talk about the stress at the beginning. There are a lot of other things that we can discuss. The dealing with skin problems is a very holistic thing. You need a very holistic approach in order to deal with it. But stress is definitely one of the major factors in this world, and I'm sure that all of us are kind of knowing what I'm talking about and will agree about it.
And unfortunately, something that doesn't come up in a clinical setting as much as I'd like to see as well with specialists. Joe, on that subject, and also from a parent point of view, what sort of role did stress and living with the condition that you or your daughter was play in that bigger picture, I suppose?
I think it's exactly as Nadav said, it is a really vicious circle, and sleep plays a really big role in that as well. Because I think if you're sleep deprived, you become more stressed, and the eczema gets worse, and or the child's, eczema, is worse. Actually, I think stress is sort of something that's transmitted as well between people, that are close to you. If she's very stressed, then I feel stressed, and vice versa when she was tiny. And it had an impact on, our relationship with my husband, with my other daughter. So yeah, I totally agree with the sort of, the vicious circle nature of it, and trying to break that cycle and trying to identify things that will, reduce your stress and obviously reduce the flare-ups or help you manage, whether it's specific triggers around the environment that you're in, the food you're eating, the chemicals you're using, washing powder or whatever. There's so many things. I'm sure we'll probably get into some of them. But trying to identify those, triggers which are either contact stuff or they're causing you stress is really important. And having some tools to manage them. And I think things like CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy and stuff, they didn't really exist, or certainly I wasn't aware of that sort of stuff. And it's hard, and that's not also the sort of thing that you can use with a small child. So it's
if I may add, I think that everything that our kids as parents, when our children are suffering, it's worse than our pain or suffer. I'd rather have their problem and not looking at them, seeing them suffering, itching, or in pain or any. I'd rather have it myself than seeing my child in pain or in any kind of suffer. So
exactly.
It's
and it makes you feel, I think, guilty as well, because certainly did with me when I was there. I felt maybe it was something I'd done, maybe something I was eating when I was pregnant, or maybe something I was giving her now. It was, or at best, it was like my genes had created this situation, and you just feel guilty. But also, even the environment. I remember walking around parks with strapping her hands down in a buggy, so that she wouldn't claw at her face the whole time. And you'd see people looking at you, and you think, "Oh my God, I can't even catch their eye because I feel so." They're going to think, "What's that mother doing, strapping her children's hands down in their buggy?" So it creates isolation, I think.
There is it's not a known syndrome, but I call it the leprosy syndrome in case of skin problems. Yeah. Very often we have a very tiny, small rash or something that is bothering us, and nobody else knows about it. But we feel that we are contaminating, that we are not aesthetic, that we are dirty or something like that. Nobody else is seeing it. Nobody is checking our hair. I don't have very much. I don't have hair these days, but I used to have sometime in the past. Nobody is checking our scalp all the time. Nobody is looking at our elbows all the time. And even if we have something there, so what? It's not the end of the world. But for us as the sufferer, we might think that it's the end of the world, that it's a severe syndrome, and everybody are looking at us and seeing something, and that creates a lot of stress, and again the vicious circle, etc.
Yes, it's so true. Because one of the things I campaign for is for projects to expand beyond looking for people with severe cases of these things. Because my argument is I can have a tiny bit of psoriasis in an area where nobody knows it's there, but I know it's there, and I walk around the world knowing it's there, and therefore it has a mental impact on me. And often, like you talked about a tiny bit, that can then be the trigger to my psoriasis spreading, because mentally you think about it, you're obsessed with it, affects your sleep, whatever, and then a small problem becomes a big one, doesn't it?
But it's mainly in our mind, in our it's ours. If we will get over that, we can go we can fly with the stream and feel much better.
And when you created Medovie or founded Medovie, and was that sort of like that gap or lack of including a sort of holistic view, was that sort of a driver, or did you see like a gap, or was it, just something that sort of just went hand in hand with the work?
The dynamic of creating Medovie was very interesting. First, I'm a clinician, so I have a clinic. Every day I wake up and go to the clinic and see patients, and that's my day-to-day work. And it all started from seeing patients getting good results. It wasn't also directly I didn't start with skin problems. It ended up with skin problems. There is very often you start with, when you start a research and when you start to develop something, you start with something and you end up with a whole different thing, or something that is similar or in the neighborhood of the indications or product. So we started the process, we started the developing process, the research based on very good, interesting anecdotal cases in my clinic. And once I saw these anecdotal cases, I said, there is something interesting here. Let's try and understand what's going on here. I think that when we talk about, we in Medovie, we talk about the 3HX, the 3 herbs that we're using in our extract in all of our products. And there is what we call the 3HX method. The 3HX method is based on taking or on using the wisdom of the traditional medicine, the Chinese medicine, the herbal medicine, the wisdom of the nature, combine it together and get the best understanding with the most sophisticated, updated tools of the modern science of the 21st century. So we get the synergy of these 3 wisdoms, and in a way, the sum of these 3 is much bigger than each of the ingredients by itself. And by the end of developing this 3HX method, we got a very safe to use for long-term use product with amazing efficacy. We have very good understanding how it works, what's the mechanism behind it, and I can give a long talk about the mechanism from both physiologies, from the TCM, for the traditional Chinese medicine point of view, or from the modern Western point of view. And it's very interesting to see how and where it meets together. The wisdom of the thousands of years and the wisdom of the modern wisdom, and how this mechanism is. It's a very fascinating and interesting thing to see. One of the things that I'm really proud of. And yes, at the end, there is an approach of a holistic approach that other than these products, it should be the clothes, it should be the nutrition, it should be the exercise, it should be the lifestyle, the smoking, the alcohol, everything else should be in there. I'm coming from a holistic approach of medicine, and this is the spirit of Medovie.
Thank you for sharing that. And Joe, in your personal experience, so obviously I'm coming from a psoriasis background, more autoimmune, and although stress is a trigger, we don't have so much of the sort of like environment triggers as maybe eczema would have. Do you find, like, in the treatment of that sort of bigger picture is considered, and stress and sleep and the sort of like well-being of the patient as well as those sort of factors, or does that not really come into the conversation in a medical setting?
I think it's a very, I think maybe it's improved, but certainly when I was looking for advice, 18 years ago, 17 years ago, it was really so focused on very traditional, modern sort of medication, whether it's antihistamines or steroids, really, and a bit of antibiotics thrown in there to get rid of infections. And maybe drink some water, but that was sort of about the limit of it. I think now it has improved to the extent that a lot of the care is nurse-led rather than consultant-led. The problem is you can't get in to see someone. There's a massive waiting list. So like if you're lucky enough to see someone, then yes, you might get a slightly more holistic view because it's more nurse-led rather than a consultant sort of writing a prescription or giving the sort of focused on the medication. But I think, and I totally agree with Nadav, I think you have to take a holistic view, and people are more aware of that now, which is great. And I think, the internet, whilst it has, it's got its issues, the great, wonderful thing it's created is communities like this one, where people can share stories and share issues and come across people who've got the same issues as them, because it is obviously brilliant to have supportive friends and family, but actually it's probably quite rare to have people in your friends and family who really understand exactly what you're going through. And you need both, but to have a community like this where actually people understand exactly what you're going through is and have got sort of some experience to say, okay, actually, great, go to your doctor if that's what you sort of need to do, but also think about the things that, for example, for eczema, as you say, things that are touching and that are in contact with your skin, because they make such a difference. And it's really simple things like your washing powder. People don't think about washing powder enough, but everything you're wearing, and everything you're sleeping on is touched by that. And what kind of fabric it is, whether it's a synthetic fabric or whether it's a natural fabric like cotton or silk or tencel, and even I like silk and tencel, to be honest, because they're lovely and soft, but the problem with them is you can't wash them at more than 30 or 40 degrees. Whereas cotton, whether it's cotton or organic cotton, you can wash at 60 degrees, gets rid of dust mites, gets rid of sort of dead skin and the creams that get embedded in fabrics. So they're just some relatively simple lifestyle things like the temperature you're washing out, the washing powder you're using, the clothes you're wearing, trying to manage things like changes in temperature. I don't know about, I'd be interested to know, is psoriasis affected by changes in temperature? But certainly eczema quite often is triggered by someone going from hot to cold or cold to hot.
The itching definitely intensifies.
So trying to, not to have a really hot bath, a sort of lukewarm bath, and come into a warmish bathroom, or trying to keep your bedroom cool. There's lots of, as you say, a holistic sort of aspects that make such a difference, rather than relying on medication to deal with, flare-ups.
And I think that's why, I know this is a bit of a UK issue, but I think that's what really bothers me about the lack of face-to-face appointments these days, and the direction of travel of that, because, how can you take a holistic approach if you're not seeing, say Nadav, I come into your clinic and you see my body language, don't you? Or you can see if my diet might have changed from putting on weight and things like this. And here in the UK, we're moving to that sort of a patient-initiated follow-up route. And
we offer in Medovie Zoom. We don't offer face-to-face meetings, but every week I meet a few people from the UK via Zoom and talk to them. One of the amazing things that I hear is that they don't see a dermatologist. Usually they're being treated by the GP. That I'm not sure, I don't want to be too criticizing, but I'm not sure how strong is their knowledge in dermatology and their skills of diagnosis and treatment. So it ends up by giving some generic steroid cream, and that's not always the best solution. And these people are using steroids for a very long time. And then there is the topical steroid withdrawal issue. Just by meeting them for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, once a few weeks via Zoom, that's a huge difference for them. And that's, as you said, it's not the face-to-face meeting. It's not talking, the knowing people, the body language, as you said, or something like that. The
It's a
interesting
really
thing, by the way,
worrying.
about clothes that you mentioned, I see it also in the clinic in many other issues like sensory sensitivity
Yeah.
or imbalance, or even breathing issues. Um, the the fact that a syndrome is manifesting on the outer, on the external part of the body, doesn't mean that it's an external issue. Skin issues, skin problems are not an external issue. They have to be addressed both internally and externally. It's part of the, by the way, the 3HX method. That's why we have also a supplement, not just creams or shampoo for external use. And you see it with eczema, you see it with many other syndromes. Clothes can be, and the fabric and the things that you use for laundry or washing, that has a huge impact on different syndromes, on different diseases.
And patient education is like really key in that, isn't it? In looking at the bigger picture. So just a bit of my personal experience. I had eczema as a child. I reported psoriasis through my teenage years, but everyone focused on the arthritis. It didn't get any attention. And then I got covered in it. And still to this day, I saw like one dermatologist. I was given a steroid cream. I wasn't told, like it took maybe 20 years for me to notice that when my psoriasis was flaring, my allergies would be a lot more active. So I've got a new dog. I've got a puppy who's 10 months old now. I'm allergic to him, and I know I'm allergic to him because my condition isn't very well controlled at the moment. But nobody explained that link. Nobody explained, the cardiovascular link with psoriasis and all them other internal processes. But if you don't educate the patient and help them see the bigger picture, in this world we're living in today of, like I say, remote access and lack of appointments and waiting lists and everything, I feel that feels like a
Sometimes you
bomb
have
waiting to
to
go
say
off.
the obvious. Sometimes you have to say the obvious.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that it's important to eat well, to eat healthy. Everybody knows that physical activity is an important thing. Everybody can say that smoking is not a healthy, or it's a non-healthy habit, etc., etc. But sometimes you have to go to someone that will discuss it with you, talk about it with you, make things clear for you. At the end, you're an adult. Do whatever you want. It's your life. But and if you keep on having a dog while you are allergic to dogs, that's a bit of a problem for me as a practitioner to deal with. But
It was more
your
the fact I
fault.
never was
Hey man,
allergic to
your
dogs,
fault.
and now I find I am.
It's
So I think it's
you're an
more.
adult.
I think it's more I've changed because, like, I'm well aware my diet's not right. I'm not as physically active as I should be. So lots of things have changed since the pandemic. I'm sort of a totally different person, and I'm well aware I need to fix those things before I look at the allergy stuff, because physically I'm not as healthy as I should be. But I've got the information to have that adult conversation with myself. But not everybody either has that information or, I suppose, wants to have that conversation, do
But I
they?
think it's also quite overwhelming, actually, because there's so many things. You think, well, actually, no, I've got a job, I've got a family, I've got, there are only so many hours in the day. So, where do you start? And I think one thing that, if you can manage it, is, I think is helpful, is to try and start keeping a bit of a journal, for some people to, actually is a way of managing stress, because sometimes if you just write things down and see them in black and white, you're like, okay, I can actually deal with that. It's now that I've sort of written it down. Even just writing your thoughts and feelings down can help, but also keeping a bit of a journal as to when do you flare up and what was it linked with, what, not necessarily a completely itemized food diary, because I find that quite onerous, but, like roughly, did you have quite a lot to drink that day, or did you, were you eating out at a restaurant? I think eating out is a challenge, actually, because, I think dietary things can have such a big impact, but yeah, keeping a journal. And I think for me, keeping a journal and exercise, I think exercise, it makes such a big difference to our mental and physical health. Even just going for a walk outside and getting some fresh air every day, if you can do that and just say, right, I'm just going to take 10 minutes every morning to go out and just walk around the block I think taking small steps, because otherwise I think it can be quite overwhelming to think, okay, well, where do I even start with things like my triggers? And whether it's environmental, food, stress, etc. But trying to make it more manageable and start sort of small steps.
Yeah, and would you echo that, Nadav? Like if somebody's coming in saying, I wanna make a positive change, but it feels so overwhelming when you're at the bottom of that
I'll tell you
journey.
what. The If you're too extreme and too rigid about these changes, you're going to miss it. It's not all or nothing. You have to find your way and your balance of exercising and eating, and you know what? I'm also fond of some sins. Once in a while, do something that you're not allowed to by the law, by the rules, and enjoy it. Um, there was an article was published, I think 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. If you want, I can share later the link for the article. And they were talking about the benefit in exercising in small amounts. Do whatever you can, like Joe just mentioned, even 10 minutes. It has a lot of influence, and they checked it on variety of diseases, severe diseases like cancer, heart disease. It's not that you have to go and do 45 minutes of running in a very fast or something like that. That's not the deal. You should do whatever is good for you, whatever is right for your age, for your level of health, for your level of many things. And it's the same with food. Don't make it a mission that if you're doing something you're not allowed to, you should get into more stress than you were in before. And guilt feelings are not a good thing for skin problems. So do whatever you can, make it some kind of a routine in a doable way. The recommendation is to have 150 or more minutes a week of aerobic activity. I don't know if everybody can have it. Then 100 is good enough, and 100 is 20 minutes a day, 5 times a week. That's doable for most of us. So build it in a way that you can do it and you can enjoy it, and you will feel the benefit.
Yeah, and I'd say it can feel like you're at the bottom of a mountain for a lot of people, can't it? So it's those like little steps, like you've both said about like 10-minute walk and things like that, and it doesn't have to be those grand sort of things. And you see it, don't you, with people making New Year's resolutions and they go too hard with the gym routine and it doesn't last. So it's a much healthier approach. Joe, what sort of things with your experience with your child and everything would you sort of say people could maybe start with that? I know it might sound like a bit of a big question, but like if from your vast personal experience, because that guilt thing as a parent, it eats us up over everything, not just our child's health, doesn't it? Absolutely everything.
Yeah, totally.
So what is there any sort of things that spring to mind, like little wins or little steps that people could take around sort of managing a child with a condition like that, like eczema?
Yeah, I suppose I felt having a bit of a plan, so that because she was always going to flare up at various points. So there's only so much you can do to stop that happening. And when it does happen, I suppose you don't want to feel like a failure. You want to have a plan. Say, right, okay, this has happened. What am I going to do about it? So for me, it was partly about trying to reduce the triggers in the first place. And actually triggers for her, but also triggers for sort of my levels of stress. And that was probably meant taking a bit of time out for myself. So it sounds a bit selfish in a way, but actually, I think if you're looking after someone, if you're caring for someone, or even if you do have the eczema yourself or psoriasis, giving yourself a bit of a break sometimes and taking a bit of time out. And actually, for me, that probably was exercise, or going for a walk or doing something. So that's sort of one thing I'd say is take a bit of time out for yourself and find out what it is that, whether it's reading a book or going for a walk or just making sure you make a bit of time for yourself. Having a plan if there is a flare, or when, not if, but that when there's going to be a flare up. And for me, that was give her a bath or a shower in cool water, put some moisturizer on, a sort of oatmeal based one we tended to use, cover her up in some organic cotton clothes, put her in front of a TV program she really liked, so it would just let it all soak in. And just so wherever we were, obviously sometimes it's hard, but even on holidays, be like, right, you just need to get back to the room in the middle of the day, have a quick shower or bath, put some cream on, put some cotton PJs on, let's just watch half an hour of Peppa Pig or whatever it was. And just actually having that routine and knowing that you've got, wherever you are, whether it's at home or with friends or on holiday or something, you've got, your cotton PJs. You always carry fresh water with you so you can get rid of, any allergens that are on your hands or your body. And you got your moisturizer. And you can stream or, download a program, and having that in your back pocket instead of saying, right, that's my go-to plan, I think really helped me. And actually giving her, when she got a little bit older, a bit of responsibility so that she could feel if she wasn't, especially if she's got quite bad food allergies as well. So she could sense if she was having a reaction, or she could tell if she was obviously flaring up a bit. And giving her, even when she was quite little, actually some responsibility to say, well, look, here's your cream. You've got a spare mitten top in the fridge. You might keep one. We sometimes kept one in the fridge if it was hot. If you're feeling like a flare, you can go and help yourself. And actually giving a child a sense of responsibility is great for them, because it feels like it helps them feel a bit more in control. And actually it helps you because it gives you a bit of a break, and it helps you feel more confident about putting them in a situation at a friend's house or like at their grandparents, because you know that they're not totally reliant on someone else. Actually, they can start doing stuff themselves, like taking some antihistamine if she could feel she's having a reaction to some food, or and she did that from quite a young age, and I think it really helped both of us, actually.
Just you explaining that just makes you realise the sort of true burden of the condition, and how many steps are involved, and the planning and everything, which often gets overlooked. And we try to highlight that on the show a lot, this sort of thing, that impact on the caregiver and everything. And how super organized you have to be. It's like, I probably hadn't appreciated all the different steps there, but thank you so much for sharing that. And I suppose Nadav, sort of over to you, like what's in your toolkit in terms of, like, if things don't go to plan and you're flaring and things go a little bit safe, as it happens to all of us sometimes, what do you sort of turn to cope, and what does that look like?
So to be honest, my first tool was the herbs that were prescribed to me at the very beginning, and when I had to reuse them, I just used something like that prescription. Today, I'm happy and lucky to have my products that I can use on a daily basis, and they really help me. But I think also in terms of lifestyle, and I have to say I'm lucky about it. I naturally I eat well. I like to do some sports, so I don't have to fight with myself in order to do it. Sometimes I do too much. And then I have orthopedics issues, but that's a different story. That's not a healthy thing. Sport is damaging your health if you look at it as an orthoped. But I'm not smoking. I'm socially drinking alcohol, but not a massive drinker, so I don't have these issues. I also live in the Mediterranean, and I like the sun very much. So from one point of view, from my angle, people would say that I'm too much in the sun because of the fear of melanoma, etc. But in the aspect of psoriasis, that's a good thing for me, actually. So we all know that in psoriasis, as opposed to eczema, sun can benefit our skin and our condition. And with eczema, we should be way more careful with it, because it can cause a severe flare-up, and we should be very careful about it. So I kind of naturally structure the lifestyle that is healthy, let's say 80-90%. And if you keep the 80-90% in relation to the previous bullet, that's good. Then you can do some scenes sometimes. And if you're flaring, don't do the scenes, but once in a while enjoy a scene or something like that. That's my way of handling this situation. And I think that it's also in the benefit of other health issues.
Yeah, it shows everything in moderation. And definitely the sun. My psoriasis is much worse in the winter. I had a doctor tell me to move to Spain once, and wasn't really practical, but it definitely helps. And just while we're on that subject of sun, before we move on, is like, because one of the other things that people with psoriasis struggle with is a lot of the oral systemics and stuff we take has issues with too much sun exposure, which is a real catch-22 when your skin benefits from sun, but the medication can cause reactions. So in terms of your product, with that being sort of natural...
No, it's a non-issue. it works in a different mechanism. It's a non-issue. The opposite is true. And I think that in order to get to the root of the problem, the deeper you want to get as much to the root of the problem or to the triggers, as Joe mentioned, just that treating the itch. You want to get to the trigger and try to solve that, not just the symptom itself. In order to get there, you have to use also oral products or solutions for these situations.
I wish actually when Bonnie was tiny that people had thought more about how it does starts from the inside, because it's I think the combination you have, Nadav, of the pills and the inside and the cream is really great.
There is an expression in traditional Chinese medicine, the way they describe, by the way, these diseases thousands of years ago. They had different names, very beautiful in a way, names for, if you can say beautiful about the name of a disease. But one of the things that they described in treatment psoriasis is something that was translated as venting the rashes to the surface. So you have a rash. In a way, sometimes when you start the treatment there is a regression, and then it vents to the air and disappear in a way. So you have to deal with it internally as well.
I really like that, because as somebody that does a lot of work around chronic pain, that's like our biggest first barrier, is like trying to get people are going into pain management therapy, for example. They're looking for that magic bullet. They want somebody to just fix it for them. And that's such a difficult conversation to say. You have to kind of get down to where the factors that contribute to it.
I think that you're touching a very important point, and the fact that you said the magic bullet. We all look for the magic bullet.
Yeah.
We all want instant, fast solutions. It's the world and it's the nature of the human being. But definitely in the 21st century, everything is happening fast. We can't live with uncertainty. We want fast solutions, clear solutions, more than it was when I was a child, and probably less than it will be when my grandchild will be in the world. We all want fast, clear-cut solutions, magic bullets. Get the cream and get rid of everything. Get the pill and no more pain. And then you get into the issues of addiction or steroid use for long term, which is kind of an addiction, and the damage that it causes. We have what we call the principle of the 3 P's principle: the patience, persistence, and perseverance. And the last one is prevention. Once you're healed, we're getting into the prevention phase. But you have to be very persistent, very patient. I can tell you about a patient that approached me today. She was using steroids for 12 years, massively. Her skin, as she described it, I didn't meet her yet, is very fragile, thin, damaged. And in a way, nothing is helping her because she's not absorbing, and the damage is huge. And once she's stopping using the steroids, obviously there is a withdrawal, and the symptoms are aggravated. If she needs a lot of patience and a lot of persistence, and deal with and perseverance as well. And it's not going to be a magic bullet that will give her a solution just like that.
And the thing is, though, I guarantee you, they probably had a similar experience to me, where you see a dermatologist, you're diagnosed with psoriasis, you're given a cream, and you don't see them again. And it was my wife was in the medical professional. It was her who actually told me to don't put that cream on too much. It'll thin skin and blah blah blah. And I didn't. No one told me that. No medical professional. And I've been using this stuff for years. And it sort of comes back to patient education again, doesn't it? And totally. Empowering patients to be able to make the right decisions for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And whilst the internet is a great resource in many ways, it's also a minefield, because it has a lot of just really worrying actually advice about things like bleach baths. And I mean, I don't know, just scary stuff out there. So it's really hard to know who to trust sometimes. We've got a blog that, we try and keep up to try and put some advice out. And obviously it's a retail site, but the whole ethos of what we're trying to also do is help inform and educate people and try and have an independent source of advice that is really tried and tested, rather than just so hope providing a place for someone to get some input from people who've actually had that lived experience, a bit exactly like you're doing here.
And like we can only fill one part of that as peer support. That, you know, we've got to keep applying the pressure on the medical community as well to be willing to have those conversations. We know time is a massive issue. We know budgets are a massive issue. But if we can start addressing that training factor so that clinicians are ready to have that two-way conversation and answer questions and steer patients in the right direction, then I think that'll peer support combined with that, and we'll get somewhere. But unfortunately, we've still got a lot of work to do on the second point. So it's difficult. It's difficult. Sorry, go on, Joe, carry on.
No, I was just gonna say, we came across, just made me think of this, some doctors recently, or guys who were qualified as doctors but had really bad eczema, and they'd been so horrified and disappointed with the process they'd had to go through as a patient. And obviously they were going through, like, they were qualifying as doctors, I think, I can't remember, like Nottingham or somewhere, and that they ended up, I think, leaving the NHS and setting up a business called Proton Health, where they've created an app, which they call a sort of dermatologist in your pocket. But it's an app that is on App Store, actually. And I've only sort of tried it, and a couple of my team have tried it, just to understand what they're doing. But it's all around sort of CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy, and around just having, helping you keep a journal, helping you, identify your triggers. And it's just quite a clever way of doing it. Sort of, so obviously it's on your phone, so it's there all the time. So that for me has been quite an interesting way, because I think it shouldn't replace the NHS, because the NHS should be there for everyone. But actually, sometimes I think you have to just think around it and think, okay, well, what can you supplement the NHS with to try and fill some of that gap, that sort of holistic approach, and the more of the well-being support and the mental health support. And I thought this was quite an interesting approach on it. But I think there's a link on our website somewhere under our advice at the bottom if anyone wants to look up Proton Health, and I can put a link in the chat later.
Super, thank you. And I think the thing is that, like I say, that takes time to filter through. If I was doing this talk show 4 years ago, there's absolutely no way us three would be on here having this conversation, because I was programmed by my clinic. I did what he said. There was no other way. I wasn't looking at clothing or alternative creams or my bath routine with salt and all this sort, all them other sort of, I was literally taking my tablets and that was it. I was taking my tablets, not getting better. And then, but in the last 4 years, CBT, pain management, walking more, worry management, that I didn't even know existed, like social prescribe and that sort of stuff, that we're really not offering to patients enough. That has had more of an impact on me as any drug. So I think it's really important what you're sharing. And I just want to mention that, because if anyone who's watching who was in that place where I was 4 or 5 years ago and thinking, yeah, all right, whatever, I'll just keep taking my pill, like, there are other ways of managing your condition and a bigger picture way of managing your condition. So I just want to I suppose I'm just thinking about anything else we want to talk about here. And so we've talked about stress and sort of like the work that goes in from your point of view, Joe, in terms of being a caregiver and everything else. I'd like to touch a little bit, if you don't mind, on like the social side. I know, Joe, you mentioned it earlier in your sort of introduction and about people looking at things like, and we've talked about some of the medical challenges, but in terms of the social impact of living with conditions with eczema and psoriasis, has anyone got any sort of like things they want to share on that, or do you think it's, for example, do you think it's often overlooked, that side of these skin conditions and visible conditions such as eczema and psoriasis?
I would say massively overlooked. I mean, I think I know that the National Eczema Society, for example, have done a survey earlier this year, and it's going to come out in the next couple of weeks, because it's National Eczema Awareness Week starting on 9th in 6 days' time. And they're going to be releasing some stats, but they shared a few of them with me on a call I had with them. And some of them are really scary in terms of the number of people. I mean, the figures are massive in terms of mental health. Sort of, I think it was like 80% of people with eczema said that they had suffered, their mental health had suffered as a result of their skin condition. But even there was a figure of 20-30% who'd even had suicidal thoughts. I mean, it was a really, really significant and really horrifying, actually, stat and result from that. And it was all around the impact of eczema and on their sort of people's confidence levels and their social sort of situation, not wanting to go out, not being able to wear the same clothes as their friends, not being able to participate in going to the beach where it's a sandy environment, or just being able to participate fully, and not having the confidence. So I think it's a really big issue that is totally underestimated by the general population.
I think that there is there are misconceptions about skin problems. Some are due to ignorance, some are due to I don't know what. It's in the general population, but it's also part of our community. We're not all on the same page, I think, in that aspect. For example, the issue of being contagious or not. It's a big issue. We're not. if it's needed to say, we're not, and it's not clear for the general population, and sometimes for us or for our relatives, it's not the clearest thing in the world. It's there is a lot of education to do here, and by the way, what you're saying about the 80% of the mental issues, I did once kind of a survey of what was the trigger when you ask someone, or I am almost always asking people if they remember their first flare-up, and most of the people remember it, unless it was very early in young age, but most of the people remember it, and then you can discuss with them what was going on these days. So they moved from one city to the other. Divorce in the family is a very strong trigger or issue. Death, obviously, in the family or in the close relatives, first degree is usually brought up as a trigger. But definitely, the stress and the mental issues are coming up.
And I'm going to share just for anyone else that needs to hear it out there, like from my personal experience as well, it's not always about society issues around us and the way that people think it might be contagious. Like a lot of my mental burden from living with a skin condition like psoriasis is stuff I place on myself. I mentioned earlier about knowing that rash is there. I am my own worst enemy sometimes in terms of how I allow my condition to make me feel, and no one said anything terrible to me, no one's pointed it out. It's what you put on yourself, isn't it? And I think
what you imagine people are thinking, isn't it? Yeah, which
exactly that. Yeah, you just do, and it then affects your confidence. And then if your confidence drops, then that's when you stop looking after yourself. You start eating bad. Like I know for me, if I'm going to have a takeaway, it's when I've had a really bad day. I want something to look forward to at the end of the day. So I'll say to my wife, I'm not cooking tonight. I just need something to get me through to the end of the day. And I'm then setting off all sorts of triggers. But it's because, I woke up that morning, I had a bad day of my condition. And it becomes a spiral that you have to then sort of try and jump in and stop. So I'm only mentioning that in case there's anyone else out there thinking like, I put it all on myself, because I know I do. And I think it's, again, it's having them honest conversations with yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
And the other thing I just wanted to mention as well, because obviously myself and Joe were in the UK, my advocacy work, I hadn't appreciated just how vast these stigmas and social issues were until I started doing stuff like in other parts of the world. And so we talk about contagious, that element. In the UK, people don't talk, especially men, and this sort of things we just cover up. But my advocacy has led me to realize what a big issue is in some cultures where you're cursed. People think you're cursed, or people think that if you're in Africa, they'll link it to things like HIV and stuff like that, or you'll be asked to leave the village. We've had other guests on here that have shared those experiences, and it's really eye-opening. So a skin condition goes way beyond like the experiences we just have as individuals. They're some real big hitting issues, aren't they, that to try and address.
Yeah,
and I'm not asking for the answer. I have no idea what the answer is, but we just got to keep talking about them more. I think that's all we can do.
Definitely.
I'm trying to think about is there anything that we haven't covered, guys, that you would like to cover? Because this has felt like such a fluid conversation, and I think I should point out at this point that our guest guys have been awesome sports in that they haven't had any of the questions pre-written. They've really got into the spirit of the Chronic Pain Club talk show where we just do it fairly fluid. So I'm really grateful for your sort of honest candidness and sort of having me throwing things at you. Is there anything we haven't discussed that you think would be important for our audience?
I think we've covered a lot of stuff, actually. I mean, there's one really small thing, actually, which I hadn't really put about. We're going to have a heat wave next week, from what I can see on the weather forecast, and that's a bit of a scary thing, actually. I think if you've got quite bad eczema, because sweat and the sun is lovely. I mean, we all love the sun, but actually, it can be a real trigger. And I hadn't quite appreciated, actually, that in some ways it's got some benefits for psoriasis. I mean, I think eczema actually also can clear up, but I think it's just important for people to think, you should cover up with a thin cotton top, or, and wear a hat if possible, drink loads of water. And as I said, one thing we found is keeping something like a pair of pajamas or a nightdress or even a pillowcase in the fridge, so you can change it when you're really hot and sweaty one night, and just change your clothes or change your pillowcase or something really helps. So, having a little cool box even next to bed with a flannel in it and some cold water so that you can, cool yourself down. So yeah, good luck in the heat wave, I suppose, if there's anyone out there who's stressed about it.
And just to show you, I was just going to jump in there and say as well, just show how complicated our conditions are. So from a psoriasis point of view, the sun helps me massively, but I guarantee you by the end of next week, week after, I will have inverse psoriasis in all my skin folds because of the sweat and thing that you mentioned. I'll get it in the creases of my arms or behind my knees, and it's purely because of that. So sometimes you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Sorry, I interrupted you, Joe.
No, that was it.
Okay.
No, thanks, Phil.
If I may, I want to maybe add something. We're summarizing, are we?
Go.
I think that if I would like to emphasize one thing, is that a lot is in our hands. There is a saying in Chinese. I will try to translate it in a good way, but it says something about those who wants a change, and those who wants to change. The difference between, we all want changes. The question is how much we will put an effort into doing or the change, and I think that a lot is in our hands. It's not just the medical solutions and the magic bullet that you mentioned. We can put energy into the prevention. We can put energy into the lifestyle. Once there is a flare, we will deal with it. I'm not ignoring the flare-ups, but a lot, and it's true about everything in health, in different aspects of health. You can say it's true about everything in our life. We can deal with a lot in advance, and we can take care of a lot in advance, and we can manage a lot in advance in a way that we will be much healthier. And it's in our hands.
It took me a long time to get to that point. So is that
you have to be at my age, and
yeah, no, I really appreciate it. And like I say, your creams, I'm going to give both of you a thank you. So guys, just for full disclosure, I'm not paid to have these guests on tonight or anything like that. But I have used the products, and your cream in the summer has been particularly beneficial because, like I say, knowing I can use it safely. So over the years, I learned I could use things like hemp oil and other things instead of a steroid cream or a cream that was going to cause problems with the sun. And but a couple of years ago, I just wouldn't know those options were out there. So it just shows that there are other ways of managing these conditions if we're willing to sort of look for them, aren't there?
Definitely, yeah. And I think for us, it's all about helping people itch less, because actually once you itch less, you you break that itch scratch cycle, and you sleep better. So if you itch less and you sleep better, your skin heals more. So those for us are our two really key aspects of our clothes. And it's got to be a part of the solution. It's not the solution. It's part of a whole holistic way of managing your condition. But we think it's a pretty crucial part of the solution.
And it's an area I totally overlooked, Joe, you know, until I tried.
And I had to,
until I tried those
my friend's sister
pajamas.
recommended it. It wouldn't even have occurred to me. And it's interesting. So we did just last little comment. We did a couple of surveys earlier this year, and we did a sort of general, through an agency, a general population survey of like who had actually bought specialist clothing to help with their eczema. This is only from eczema respondents. And only like 30% of them said that they'd ever considered, you know, and bought specialist clothing. But when we did a survey of our own customers and said, had clothing helped them manage their eczema, 98% said yes, it had helped manage their eczema. So, but it just doesn't occur to people. So that's for us, it's all about educating people. Say it's trying to help them look at something like clothing and bedding and stuff as being part of their holistic solution.
I know my wife was very grateful because she used to go mad at how much I was itching in bed. It was always and I never associated it because my skin was getting irritated or hot or, you know, and the thought of putting on another layer just felt like the total opposite thing for me to do. It'd make me hotter, but it doesn't. It was having the right thing on my skin. And yeah, it makes a big difference. And now I don't have self-inflicted scratch marks down the outside of my calf, which again used to contribute to the confidence and the stigma. Because if I wore shorts, it looked like I've been attacked by Wolverine, you know, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I really do appreciate what you're doing, guys. I really appreciate you giving up your Sunday evening as well to join us in our lovely community.
Our pleasure.
And
yeah, really,
I know,
really lovely to talk to you.
Thank you. And yeah, please feel free to stick around in the chat afterwards. Everyone's been listening so intently. We have a very polite bunch here. They go very quiet when the conversation's good. So I'm sure there'll be a few comments coming up afterwards. So I'll let you go back and enjoy the rest of your evening. And let's do this again sometimes. I really appreciate
brilliant. Thanks so much, Joel.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you both.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Nice to see everyone. Bye.
Guys, let me just bring chat back in. I hope you found that useful. I know I felt like I could have probably gone for another hour, but I'm conscious of everyone's time. So thank you for listening so intently, guys, and your comments as well throughout. I felt like I couldn't feature as many of them as we normally do because I didn't want to disrupt anyone's flow with such important things that we were talking about. But yeah, thank you. Let me just feature a few now, so to make sure our guests can see that. And guys, please let me know in chat if this is something you want us to do more. Like we've done something a bit different tonight. I've talked in earlier weeks on the Chronic Pain Club. We've got some changes coming. So up until now, it's been all exclusively lived experience, and that's going to carry on. You might have noticed tonight. We were talking about products and brands, but we were still talking about their personal experiences. And we've also got some medical people joining us more, like Nadav. We've got a psychologist joining us in a couple of weeks' time to talk about the psychology of living with a skin condition, which I can't wait to bring you. Yeah, if this is something you'd like to see more of, that sort of more variety, but still keeping that lived experience thread, then please do let me know either on chat or in the comments on YouTube. And if you haven't done so already, wherever you're watching, whether it be Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, etc., please consider giving us a like or a thumbs up or hit the subscribe button if you're on YouTube. We are talking about very niche things here. You know, I'm not Mr. Beast seeing if I can make 1 million hobbies fill a back garden. We're talking about people with lived experience, people's pain, you know, delicate subjects. We're offering peer support for those that need it. And we know that we're not going to blow up or trend or go viral with those sort of subjects. We just know that. But one really easy way you can support us is by subscribing on the YouTube channel and liking us if you're watching us on a different platform. It just helps tell the various algorithms and other things that are going on. So what we're doing here is important and is helping people. And I think the really important thing to point out as well, guys, we have lots of people, so we can see it in the analytics, that turn up week in, week out and don't say nothing. And hello to you guys. I appreciate you so much because I know that you guys are watching because it adds something. It helps you feel represented or helps give you advice or you feel less alone or whatever that might look like. We have so many people that turn up week in, week out for the show. And that's exactly what we're here for. You know, I'm very grateful for you regulars that are always chatting and making everyone feel so welcome. Like the show wouldn't be what it is without you. But for the silent lurkers out there, I hope you're doing okay. Please lean on us if you need anything. We are here to be a peer support group first and foremost. And like I've always said, I will stick around for as long as chat carries on after an interview. So, you You know, we've had nights in the past where we've been here for a couple of hours. And if you're looking for more of a social thing, don't forget that you can find us over on Twitch. If I just chuck up a random follow there, if you go to twitch.tv/Joel versus Arthritis, where we do the same community, many of the same people you're seeing here in chat are over on Twitch. We play computer games together. We use it as escapism. We don't tend to talk about stuff head on as much because we realize that people play computer games and do things like that to escape. So, but yeah, feel free to join us. I haven't got the Discord link to hand, but I know one of our wonderful mods will probably put it in chat for us shortly. But yeah, please do get involved if you're looking for more escapism. You know, if you are one of the people who are lurking around every week, I use the term lurk and it comes from Twitch. It's not meant to be offensive. It's just a way of describing people who watch live streams and don't chat. Then please do consider coming over to our Discord or our Twitch channel where you can get involved with the same people you're seeing here in chat. Mariana, thank you for joining us. I hope I pronounced your name right. And Leah, thank you so much for joining us. I really do appreciate it. Usual reminder, guys, the format is the minute I go offline tonight, the entire live stream, warts and all, whatever mistakes I've made, goes up onto our YouTube channel. So please feel free to go and watch that. Gives that a thumbs up. And thank you for all the people that are giving this live stream a thumbs up. It really does help people find us. And in a couple of weeks' time, you will see the top and tailed interview only version of the video. So essentially you can digest this interview, this conversation, if you missed it or you want to revisit it or you want to share it with a loved one to help them understand what you're going through. You can watch the whole live stream. It'll be available start to finish, no edits from the minute I go offline momentarily in a moment. You can watch the interview only, which will go up in a couple of weeks' time on the channel. Check out the Chronic Pain Club playlist on this YouTube channel if that's where you're watching us. And if you wait a month or so, then you will also get the podcast playlist podcast. Just search Joel versus Arthritis wherever you listen, Spotify, Apple, Google, etc. And what we do is we take the audio from these interviews and turn them into a podcast, because we have lots of people that like to listen to these things in more private settings, walking the dog, commute to work, etc. I listen to a lot more sensitive podcasts than I'm ever going to watch YouTube videos for that same reason. So we try to reach people in whatever way, you know, meeting the patient where they are, for whatever sort of way that they want to consume that content. So if you're watching this back, thank you so much for checking us out. Please give us a thumbs up. Please say hello in the comments or on the community tab on YouTube. We're trying to build more of a community feel on our YouTube channel for those that aren't familiar with Discord and Twitch and other things. So please do utilize that. And until next time, guys, I think that's probably time that we say goodbye. I haven't got my calendar in front of me, so I can't recall who I've got in next week. I'm tempted to have a really quick look. My face is going to go white while I bring up a website. Bear with me, because it seems silly for me not to mention who's on next week. So we've got a gap next week, but on the 17th of September, I will have Cheryl Crow joining me, who's a well-known arthritis advocate and content creator in the arthritis community. We'll be talking about her Room to Thrive program, her podcast, all the other things that Cheryl does. She's an absolute celebrity in arthritis spaces. And yeah, if you've already got aware of arthritis sort of online influencers and people like that, you're going to know who Cheryl already is. Can't wait to bring her on there. So that'll be the 17th of September. If something gets slotted in for next week, I'll let you know, but I've probably blocked it out for a reason. And my brain fog on a Sunday night is not reminding me why I'm not around next Sunday. But yeah, I'll speak to you in the meantime. Can't miss a stream. Snuffle joining us from the Alps. Like, what commitment. I love our community. Absolutely love our community. Ricky, even I know, awesome. And that's because Ricky doesn't have lived experience of arthritis, so that's cool. So like I say, guys, lots of awesome guests coming up. We've got a psychologist talking about living with skin conditions. We've got Cheryl joining us. I'm still working on lining up a couple of patient organizations as well. There's other guests that we got in the pipeline, but there's some legal. As we invite more and more orgs and things like that, there's a bit more loopholes and things we have to jump through. Yeah, that will be coming up. Check out either my website or my social media to hear who we've got coming up then. Snuffle, unbelievable commitment. Thank you so much. And anyone else who's watching us from random places, I always love knowing where they are in the chat. So thank you for sharing. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to stop waffling now. Until next time, enjoy what's left of your weekend. If you're in the UK, enjoy the heat wave next week. Be careful and all that jazz. And Let me know on Discord if you want me to go over on Twitch after this live. I haven't really thought about it. What's the time? It's just gone 7. I could probably go on Twitch live. Let me know on Discord. I definitely need a bit of a break before I go streaming again on a different platform. But yeah, I could possibly be on Twitch tonight or tomorrow night. Let me know over on Discord. Till next time, guys, have a good one, and thank you for keeping me company, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye bye.